I'll call the meeting to order. It was properly posted on June the 9th. This is the public hearing for the Oklahoma County budget for fiscal year 2017-18. The notice of the public hearing was properly published on Monday, June 5th. Any citizen wishing to discuss or make comments on the county budget may do so at this time. Are there those here wishing to speak? Sheriff Taylor.
Good morning. P.D. Taylor, Acting Sheriff, Oklahoma County. I'm going to be very brief and just simply ask this board to reconsider their actions they took earlier and follow and adopt the BET's recommendation. I think all the issues were addressed and justified during those many hours spent in that, so I'm just simply asking you to reconsider your action and follow the BET's recommendation at some time and point. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Mr. Scusa.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I'm going to try and be as short and brief as Sheriff Taylor was. It's my understanding that the Budget Board of Oklahoma County, in a Budget Board county, it's their responsibility to estimate the fiscal year budget based on the demonstrated need for the individual elected officials, the individual departments, and so forth. The Budget Board of Oklahoma County has requested that the budget evaluation team take on the large responsibility of reviewing all of the estimated needs for the individual departments and bringing back to you all, so you are not spending the days and countless hours behind closed doors of open meetings determining the needs of these offices on a case-by-case basis. And you expect that the BET then returns to you all and provides the recommendation that they were able to determine based on the estimated needs provided to them and discussed by them for many, many days. By the actions taken by the Budget Board at the last meeting, they disregarded the recommendation on many different line items of what the BET proposed to you all. And so, from my perspective, by requesting that the BET take the time and effort to look at all of those needs and provide you all with a recommendation, and essentially taking that recommendation and changing it in the ways you did, defeats the purpose of what the BET set out to do for you all. Additionally, it's been said in different ways and different times by different people that the Sheriff's Office was left status quo as far as funding goes for this fiscal year to make sure that money was left in reserve for this upcoming fiscal year. I do want to point out that the actions taken at the last meeting, not only did they not go against the BET's recommendation, they also decreased the amount that the BET recommended to have in reserve by almost $150,000. So as Acting Sheriff Taylor has requested, I will echo his request in asking that you all reconsider what the BET spent many hours and days discussing, preparing, and then recommending to you all. Thank you.
Let me ask a question.
Sure.
Mr. Scuda, you want to stick around just a second? Can you, the difference in what was approved the other day and what you've requested is about $800,000, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you give us just a general idea of what that covers, the purpose for the $800,000?
The purpose of what the BET recommend, what the general fund allotment accounted for as part of the BET recommendation for the Sheriff's Office included the detention center operations, salaries, benefits, the overtime, the part-time, as well as all the maintenance and operation expenses, with inclusion of inmate medical, which we're seeing a $500,000 increase to, as well as inmate food. And then in the capital, the only single line item that was in there was the copier lease for the specific to the detention center. Also included was 70% of the core operations section, so to speak, of the sheriff's office, which is vital to the operations of the detention center. That includes finance, personnel, the administration, as well as property and the training division. And then it also included the constitutional responsibility of judicial services, of serving the court papers and court documents, writs, things of that nature that the judges order that we serve. That is what the total recommendation from the BET included.
Is the bulk of that made up, though, in the inmate medical and the food expense?
I can tell you that the inmate medical contract increase is just over $500,000.
Of the 800. So how much, you remember how much the food was?
I think what was proposed was $50,000 total. As I said this year at BET yesterday, that what was allotted last year will cover us this year, but also the temporary kitchen is still an unknown factor on that, and so that was one of the things taken into consideration.
So all the other items you mentioned run about $160,000.
The way I explained it as a totality of what that fund is. Trying to dissect dollars here, dollars there, it becomes a messy situation, so to speak. Okay. So that's why I answered the way I did.
I understand, but my recollection was the bulk of the request came from the inmate medical expense and the food expense.
Inmate medical contract for next year did increase by, or will increase by, a little over $500,000.
Okay. Thank you.
You have to encumber that entire amount at the beginning of the fiscal year, is that correct?
That is correct. We have to encumber the entire contract as well as what is estimated to be the cap amount.
And that $500,000 cap, is that what you're talking about?
Roughly half of that was towards the contract. The other half of that was towards the estimated cap increase. And new information has come, since the time BET met and the estimates that we've received from our inmate medical provider, there's a possibility we may have to estimate higher than what was initially proposed to the BET at the time, based on that information.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, Deputy Scooter. You made this same request last year for $800,000 for new detention officers and giving them across the board pay raises, and we threw in another $600,000 just for walking around money, and no one ever received a raise, and you never hired new detention officers. What's going to keep that happening again this year?
I can't necessarily speak to last fiscal. I don't have those numbers in front of me, nor do I have my breakdown to give you the best answer on that question. I can tell you that what we proposed this year was the demonstrated need of our office moving forward.
But you still have the $800,000 we gave you last year, which you didn't use, and it's still in your budget again this year. So you're just double
the amount of our budget.
The same $800,000 again.
I apologize for interrupting you. The budget last year was not increased by $800,000, and so without going back and taking what we proposed as our estimate of needs and so forth, as well as the document that I believe you're referring to with these numbers was a document that was prepared by someone outside of the sheriff's office as to how we should manage our personnel and our people. And my personal belief is that it's the office's responsibility to show what the demonstrated need is and request that need through the budget board. I think there might be question as to whether or not the budget board can make budgetary decisions to try and influence the operation of a certain office. And so trying to go back to last fiscal year and the question you have, I think I can't answer it on the spot for you.
Have you brought on new detention officers over the past year?
I believe our current detention officer count is actually lower than where we were at last year. And we do have some of the jail captains who are here today that might be able to answer that better than I can. But I do know that for a multitude of reasons, trying to fill positions as they become vacant because of people leaving or attrition or retirement is becoming more and more difficult. But I do believe it's a fair statement that the number we have today is slightly less than what we had before last year.
So if I understand that, then you bought on new ones, but then you've lost a bunch too.
That's correct.
Because
We're constantly bringing on new employees, and you gotta stay ahead of the curve as best you can, and that's sometimes a difficult undertaking, as juvenile can also attest to.
Are you saying it's not a fun place to work?
Other questions, Mr. Skuta? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Others wishing to speak?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Captain Gene Bradley with the Oklahoma County Sheriff's Office. I just wanted to step up and kind of try and address some of the questions in regards to staffing. To answer the question about, I believe it was Mr. Freeman that was asking about staffing issues, and Captain Scoot is correct. We are lower in staffing today than we were a year ago. However, we've done numerous academies over the last year. We don't attract good quality people because of salary deficiencies, and those that we do have, because the pay is so low, we end up losing them. So over the year, we lose more people than we actually graduate from an academy. We've got another academy starting the 21st of this month, and we've only got 22 cadets in that academy.
Could you approximately answer how many less you have now than, say, last year, just approximate?
An approximate would probably be, we've probably gone under 80. We've never been fully staffed at our authorized number, and we're probably 80 short from where we were this time last year.
Okay. 80 less employees than this time last year.
Yeah, and that's an approximate.
Right, approximate. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to slightly correct the last statement of being 80 under. According to our Kronos reports and the numbers that we ran last year, as far as what we budgeted FTE-wise versus what we had at the time that we submitted to BET, what our staffing levels were. Last year, our FTE count that we submitted to the budget evaluation team, not counting the request for additional staff, was 660 full-time equivalents. This year, when those reports were run at the time the budget board, that the BET met, and the number submitted was 654 full-time equivalents. That accounts for the entire agency as a whole. And last year, I don't have a comparison as to how those breakdowns were done by bureau, whether they were detention, whether they were courthouse, so to speak. This year we broke it down that way, so moving forward we can show, based on actuals at the time, how those numbers are shifting.
So can you just tell me, in your best guess, how many less employees does the whole department have compared to last year?
Based on what was submitted in the budget from what we ran in Kronos, it was 660 last year and 654 this year.
So 6.
So overall, the entire agency as a whole was down by 6. Now, I wouldn't be able to answer specifically to the detention, but 80, I believe, is a high number.
You both could be right, though. Because I think he was talking about detention.
Well, I know that the other side of it didn't increase by 74 to bring it down, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Others wishing to speak? If not, budget board members care to comment? So,
Just bring the public
is it
discussion.
proper to close public discussion at this point, Counselor? Okay. I hereby declare the public hearings have been had and now closed. Thank you for those who came to participate. Item 4 is discussion on the increased amount for the general government budget, $50,000 for the OSU Extension Center, which is a correlating item to the Commissioner meeting we just held prior to this meeting. Commissioner Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item was brought to the Budget Board because the Board of County Commissioners at our meeting this morning, after deferring it a week, did go ahead and recommend an addition to the amount of the OSU County Extension. We're doing something a little different with them this year. The district attorney has directed us on how to deal with the OSU Extension a little differently than we have in the past. And so what we're doing this year is putting them under a contract to provide the services that they provide. And as you know, they do extensive amount of work in Oklahoma County with regard to nutrition and everything else that you can imagine. I've had friends that obtain pesticide licenses and spraying permits and all kinds of things based on the training that they got from OSU, and of course they do the 4-H and the county livestock shows, things of that nature. So they have an extensive a number of things that they do. Ms. Hines is here, as well as another of her supervisors, to discuss any questions you might have regarding their options or their operations. But what occurred was, I think there was initially a recommendation to drop that contract. Their budget last year was $487,000. There was a recommendation on the new contract for last year was $487,000. There was a recommendation in their contract for this next fiscal year of $450,000, and I asked Ms. Hines if that was going to be a number that they could operate with at the same level that they had done so this last year, and she indicated that they would have to terminate one of their educators. They do a lot of educational programs for the community, and have to terminate one of their educators. And I asked her what number she could live with, including the fact that we also have asked them to pick up all the utilities on their building. We used to pay all the utilities at their location out at on Portland and 10th. And since they've been in the new facility over on 63rd Street, then we've asked them to pay the utilities for that building. And she said she submitted a budget for $540-something thousand, and she said she could live with the $500 if we could get that done for this year with all of the extra expense that she's going to have. She would make that work. So I asked that the BOCC increase the contract amount to $500,000, and in order to actually bring that into place, then we need to adopt that as part of our budget for this next year, which would mean raising the $450,000 that we've approved thus far to that $500,000 figure. So that is the purpose of item number 4. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Commissioner?
Yes.
If I understand correctly, now, earlier this morning, when meeting as the Board of County Commissioners, you approved the contract for $500,000 contingent upon receiving the additional funding. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. I move approval of item number 4.
I second it.
Any other further discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. And then we may need to make this part of the motion. I'm assuming with the 500 to come out of the reserve. I mean the 50 to come out of the reserve.
Come out of the reserve, yes.
Okay. And I'll make that part of my motion, and I recommend approval with the 50 to come out of the reserve.
Thank you.
And second.
Is there any further discussion? Eric?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's the motion and the second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item 5 is the discussion about possible amendments regarding the annual budget.
If no one else has, I I have one, Mr. Chairman, and let me make sure I get enough copies for everybody.
All right.
Care to explain it?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. This is a motion to amend the item 5, which is the budget board agenda for next year. As you know, we've received an opinion from our district attorney regarding the move of the employee benefits department and retirement department to the Board of County Commissioners, taking it from the county clerk's department where it currently resides. And in order to do that, we will need to shift some of the funding from the county clerk's office to the Board of County Commissioners Employee Benefits and Retirement Office. I've attached to this motion a breakout of the costs that will be incurred starting, and this would be effective July 1 with the new fiscal year. This would basically cost $357,660, and those funds would come from the county clerk's budget, again transferring to the Employee Benefits and Retirement Department. The DA, as you know, opined that the BOCC was in charge of making those policy decisions, and I can say that that's not an unprecedented move. As I mentioned, I think maybe long ago, that Tulsa County utilizes this process. The Tulsa County Commissioners oversee the employees and the benefits of the employees and retirement employees. And so this would simply be conforming a little more to what the other largest county in the state does with regard to management of their benefits and retirement department. And I think the change with regard to the expenses is shown in the exhibit. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Mr. Hooton, do you have thoughts about this since it directly impacts you?
Well, that's a high number. That's a 10% decrease in my entire budget, which I know everybody's screaming about keeping budgets the same, and I'll do whatever the body sees is the right thing to do, of course.
I think these numbers are based on the existing expenses, so it should be a wash.
Right.
But you had said before, Mr. Hooton, that you were going to have to hire some new employees. So will the budget left remaining be able to afford you the salaries you're going to need to hire to replace these individuals for the cross-training duties that they do in addition to those that the BOCC is switching over?
No. This, the number I had come up with is about a $275,000 level, because I still have to somehow fund getting some employees hired to cross-train and help do payroll and do some other things. So, I mean, at this rate, that would be a very big burden on our office. And as everyone knows, I'd already made cuts to our office, and I was hoping to not make further cuts. But at this number, I'm afraid that we wouldn't be able to bring on more staff to help with payroll. And I, of course, we don't want any interruption in business whatsoever, and I would never let that happen. But that is cutting us pretty thin.
I neglected to mention, Mr. Chairman, that we had talked about moving 4 employees, and this actually just moves 3 employees and leaves the one gentleman that had indicated that he wanted to remain there. So,
Right, at least one of those employees, well, those three employees do some other stuff, and one in particular does more than just benefits, of course, and you all know that, and we've made it clear, so.
So you would need to hire someone to replace that position?
I would at least need to hire at least one person to help with payroll, yes. And with cutting my budget by that much amount, I mean, I'd obviously have to come back to the board to have some more money in our budget to fund that. And I can do that at a later date if you choose.
you can do that. That's
Sure.
one way or the other. There may be a need to come back and address that issue from the reserve, and the good news is we have reserves. So.
Do I understand that you're taking 3 of the employees because the 4th one didn't want to come? Now, are you going to have to go out and seek a 4th employee? Does it take 4 people to do that job?
No, sir.
Okay.
The 3 will be doing that with the 3 people. Yes.
And timing-wise, just so I know, when would all that be?
July 1st.
Okay.
And so we're just automatically going to keep everybody's salary the same and just switch it over? Is that your intent?
Yes.
I think you might have answered this before. Are we gonna have to re-advertise and ask the public and rehire these people?
We've already posted those jobs, I believe, and the interviews,
Are we gonna be certain to keep our same people when we advertise?
the advertisement, and we may need to talk to Dan on this, but the advertisement, as I understand, was done in-house, and the individuals applied and have been interviewed, but of course no hires have been made because we don't have the budget yet. And I think, again, that would take place on the 1st.
Just as a reference point, the Tulsa County doesn't do it this way. The clerk's office still handles retirement, just for the record, just so I said that, because I just want to make sure everyone knows that we're not necessarily following Tulsa's.
No, I don't intend to follow Tulsa in any particular way, but that was my understanding, was that the employees' benefits and retirement was handled under the purview of the BOCC. So if I'm incorrect, I apologize.
Well, I was against this on the budget, on the Board of County Commissioners, because I felt like the department runs seamlessly now and that the employees were assured their jobs were going to be intact with all other things being equal, and that the performance of them and the services provided to the rest of the county through the clerk's office, through both your predecessor, Mr. Hooten, and through your continued leadership, has been satisfactory, if not exemplary. And so I hated to just do something when there wasn't a need to, when it works, don't fix it. In addition to that, I hate it that it creates more government and it creates more expense to a budget that's already being strained. We already have the acting sheriff saying that if there were any other funds that could be expended, that they could use the money, and we all felt like there were other places that could use money too that were also left out in those BET meetings, as Mr. Skuta alluded to. There was a lot of things left on the edit room floor along through that process. But if there's a motion, I guess this is a motion from you.
This is a motion, no, second.
Mr. Sullivan.
Did you have a chance to vote on this earlier today to rescind this and put it back where it's at? And no vote?
We did.
Good vote, at least that's one vote.
Well, there wasn't going to be a second.
How do you know that without having a meeting? I hope y'all were discussing this outside the meeting.
Well, no, I didn't hear a motion. Okay. I'm registering it now, Leonard.
Yes, I think.
Scoot up to your mouth. Yeah, turn it on, that'd be good. There you go.
Hey, Pat, didn't want you to hear me.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
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 So can we have a announced vote?
Sure.
Go.
Yes.
Yes?
No.
Yes.
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 No.
Okay, to declare the motion to have passed.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a motion?
Sure.
May I make a motion to increase my budget by $75,000 to employ the new person to help with payroll? Would that be appropriate at this time?
Well, neither was raised.
No, it's,
This is amendment time,
This is
baby.
amendment time.
With the funds to come from where?
Quit calling me baby, I'm
With-
older than you.
With the funds to come from the reserve. And I'd like a roll call vote. Yep, I'm sorry, there hadn't been a second.
Is there a second? Second.
may I ask a question?
Sure.
David, do you know at this point what it is you're gonna need, and how much that's gonna cost? Again, this is something you could come back, at a subsequent meeting and request, once you have made that determination.
Sure, I know that we are gonna need some assistance in payroll, and obviously I'm gonna have to do that fairly quickly, and, I just don't wanna get behind the 8 ball on time-wise.
Could you look at it over, when it gets time to do that, and, because $75,000 sounds like a number just kinda out of the air. Do you know that it's gonna be that amount, or could it be
I think
50, or?
no, I think it'll be something close to that with benefits and everything, but,
Well, you're gonna have to post the job like now if you want to have somebody take over July 1, right? It's the 14th.
So, I'm happy to wait if you'd like. So,
It's your decision. I'm just thinking that you might wanna wait and see what it is you actually need, since you've still got the individual that was gonna remain. Plus all
He's gonna
the-
post the job, does he have to have the money encumbered?
Gotta know what they.
Apparently not from the
Because we
BOCC.
just did that on the benefits, did, those two without the dollars.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to stay with my motion to, because I believe it'll be close to that amount, and I think that looking at the $370-something thousand that was cut from my budget, I really don't want to have any interruption in any way, and so I would handle it very expeditiously and get someone in place fairly quickly. And so I would like to stay with my motion if that's possible.
Can I
It's a new motion or a?
Of course.
Because you've got people that are not going to be there, that you won't have to pay, if they go, when they come to the Board of County Commissioners. So that should leave you some money to do what you wanna do, and I'm with him, that seems like an awful quick thing to do, is hire somebody, unless you've got somebody already in mind.
How would I be left with any money on?
No, I guess we are miscommunicating, and I'm good for that. But if you want that $300,000 because you have been, because you need that money for all of those services that you're currently providing, and 3 of the people in your office are going to another organization, why do you need the money?
Well, you've taken the money that those 3 people, you've taken the people and the money.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so why do you need the money? You got the money.
Well, because
and
I
you got
don't,
the people.
no, I'm not, but you've taken the people and the money, and I still am going to have to do the duties.
I'm not denying that.
Okay.
But when you talk about the big numbers, the 300,000, a lot of that's gone with the 3 people.
I'm sorry, I'm not following it.
Have somebody help me.
Well, he's saying he still needs an employee to cover some of the
He
duties.
doesn't need $300,000 for one
I'm not
person.
asking for 300,000, I'm asking for 75,000. I'm sorry, the 370-something thousand was taken away from me. I'm asking for 75,000 to help get that one person extra.
Yeah.
He's only asking for 75 for one employee. He needs one employee.
But how does he know that's what one employee's gonna cost? I mean,
I-
you just don't know, do you?
Yes, I know exactly how much each one of my employees cost me, and the one employee you're taking is at $106,000 a year plus benefits. And so you're asking me to replace that person for 75,000. I thought that was
I don't think that's, I mean, I don't understand that.
okay.
Because the director of the department is the one that makes that kind of money. You're not gonna get a technician and pay them that kind of money, are you? I mean, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, David, doesn't that amount also include benefits?
Yes, absolutely. So you're not talking about it.
It's not base salary.
But he
Yeah.
doesn't know that. Yeah.
Well, the person that handles those cross duties now, all I can compare is apples to apples, which that person does do benefits and does help with payroll. And so that person, the only model I have is 106,000 plus benefits, which is a lot more than 106,000. And so my question was for the 75, but I don't want to argue about this in an open
Mr. Chairman,
forum.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I second his amended motion.
Which is, restate the motion.
I made a motion of
He remade his
give me $75,000 out of the
Reserve. Okay, I didn't know what the
Reserve fund.
amendment was.
I didn't know what the amendment was either.
Yeah.
The motion was just to fund the county clerk's office with $75,000 out
I
of the
can,
reserve fund.
I can answer your question about that a $40,000 position costs $61,000 in real dollars. So he would be looking at something that pays slightly more than $40,000 in real cost to afford the fringe benefits at 75.
Yeah,
So-
but he keeps saying we're taking his money and his people.
Well, we have. We're moving the three people who do other jobs besides the ones that we're hiring him for,
Right,
and the money that affords their salary.
right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I won't be able to support this motion at this time. The reason that I won't be able to is not saying that the need is not there. But what we have done is we've taken a sheriff's office much larger than any one of our single offices, indeed much larger than everything else. And we have cut the sheriff back to his current year funding, and I've already heard just a while ago that he's going to have an additional $500,000 at least on contracts. But we are requiring the sheriff's department to operate at least until September, which will be the next time that he will have an opportunity to hopefully receive some additional dollars. So if we're requiring him to manage and to get to at least to September, then with all due respect, in the interest of fairness, I don't think I'll be able to support your request.
That's fine. I'll be glad to remove my motion. I would like it noted, though, publicly that what we have done today is we've cut the county clerk's budget by 10%. We cut the county clerk's budget by 10%, and we've taken 3 of my staff. Okay, so I removed the motion, and I'll look for further assistance down the road.
And in fairness, let me just add that we've also cut the county clerk's budget, or county clerk's expense by 10%.
Yes, I understand that, yes.
That's what I've been trying to say. I appreciate
One
you
employee
very
in
much
there.
for putting those words in my
I
mouth.
have to replace.
You're so smart.
That's because of you.
Okay, motion withdrawn. Any other amendments at this time? If not, is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2017-18 budget as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Yes, could I have a roll call, please?
There were no opposed, but we can do it if you want for unanimous.
I didn't vote yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. I asked for opposed and you didn't speak. Roll call
I thought
vote.
we were doing a roll call. I'm sorry.
All right.
I was waiting for
Well,
the
you've
manager
got your
for a roll
wish.
call. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Nice.
Yes.
I am going to vote yes, because we've got to have a budget, and I'm for the budget. I still will restate, I'm still disappointed in the way that we have put this budget together. I'm disappointed in the way that we have virtually ignored the recommendations of a very great staff called the Budget Evaluation Team. However, after making my statement, I will take my pistol out and shoot myself right after I vote yes. Never mind, the assessor's gonna help.
Aye.
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 Yes. No.
Okay. Any elected official comments? Assessor?
None.
Treasurer?
No.
District 3?
Pass, thank you.
District 1?
I just wanna thank the district, really, Commissioner for putting words in my mouth.
Speak up real loud.
It'll be the last time, don't worry.
Court clerk?
No.
County clerk?
Wanted to wish Ray Vaughn a happy birthday, of course, and
Thank you, sir.
and Commissioner Mon a speedy recovery, and we're happy you're back and
Thank
still
you.
with us.
Thank you very much.
Importantly.
I'm grateful to all the first responders and those who helped me in the medical team and, your benefits department, Mr. Hooten, for answering some questions about some stuff I needed to answered. Any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, if not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.